Oh, I know what we got here. We got here because a small group of people who had very loud voices created a scenario where bad people got rewarded and the victim got punished by the system. You know, there is always a reason for criminal behavior. Whatever. Didn't have a good upbringing, didn't have two parents in the house, didn't have one parent in, there's always a reason. You're mentally ill, that's a reason. You took drugs, that's a reason. You took alcohol, your brain is fried. Whatever it is, there's a reason. There is never an excuse for bad behavior. And when society started to make excuses for bad behavior and react to criminality based upon the excuses, it fell apart. It fell apart. You're just as dead if somebody 18 kills you or 17. You're just as dead. And if you're 17 years old and kill somebody, you don't belong with kids who were 12 in a juvenile facility. You don't belong in a different criminal justice system, but a very small group of people pushed through in New York State, for instance, raising the level of criminal responsibility. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, if you have family, if you have a mother who's 65 years old, who's walking to the grocery store, and some crazy, for no reason, hits her over the head with a steel pipe and kills her, and they're 17, that person should never be allowed to walk the street again, because society can't take a chance.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about a very unlikely person to come out and to defend Trump against these clearly and obviously politically motivated prosecutions. Now, the mainstream liberal media tried to run roughshod over Dr. Phil, who came out and said, yeah, based off my experience analyzing trials, specifically the jury, yeah, I think that this trial, the hush money trial bought by Alvin Bragg against Trump that happened in New York, yeah, I think that it was a sham. Okay, I think that it is political persecution. I think it's obvious that this would not have happened if the defendant was not named Donald Trump. Now, again, we have another major kind of celebrity, right, that has come out and said, you know what, I think that these trials were a sham and they should not have happened. And that is no other than Judge Judy, the TV judge, right, who, you know, I gotta say, she's not necessarily a fan of Trump.
Jen, Steve, this is only the second time that Judge Judy has publicly dipped her toe into politics, but earlier this month she endorsed Haley. And you might remember back in 2020, Judge Judy endorsed Democratic presidential candidate and former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg. Judge Judy says she believes Haley is the best choice for this moment, particularly given the fact that she believes former President Trump and President Biden are both too old.
Put your money where your mouth is. You got to get up off your behind, if you believe that, and travel 1,700 miles, if that's what it takes, to tell the people of New Hampshire that it's a critical time for them.
And coming up at 11 tonight, we'll have more highlights from our sit-down. We're live in Exeter, Ariel Metropolis, WMUR, News 9.
Okay, but again, that is kind of what makes what she's saying here, being a judge and also not being a fan of Trump, it kind of makes it a lot more powerful in the sense that, you know, she's not coming at it from a biased perspective. She's coming at it from the perspective of a judge and somebody that, again, is not necessarily a big fan of Trump. But she tells the truth here in this interview about how, again, these political persecutions against Trump, specifically the Alvin Bragg case, should have never been bought, and that, yes, they are weaponizing the system for their own political gain.
Donald Trump was indicted in 4 separate cases, and his legal strategy was pretty clear. He wanted to push all of the trials past the election. That kind of effort to just use procedural motions, whatever, is that the justice system working, or is it the justice system being manipulated?
I would be happier, as someone who owns property in Manhattan, if the district attorney of New York County would take care of criminals who are making it impossible for citizens to walk in the streets and use the subway, to use his efforts to keep those people off the street, than to spend $5 million or $10 million of taxpayers' money trying Donald Trump on this nonsense. That's my view. But I, as a taxpayer in this country, resent using the system for your own personal self-aggrandizement. Now, if you didn't know...
And that's what you think the DA did in Manhattan?
That's what I think. I mean, if you look, you had to twist yourself into a pretzel to figure out what the crime was. He doesn't like him. New York City didn't like him for a while.
Trump.
Trump.
What do you think of Donald Trump?
What do I think of him? I think he was a good businessman, a real estate guy, and he was certainly terrific on The Apprentice.
What do you think of him as president of the United States?
I don't think that Donald ever should have been president, and I don't think that even Donald thought he was going to be president. I don't think so.
Yeah, so you see, now you heard that. Okay, so Judge Judy, who again is not a fan of Trump, okay, she endorsed Nikki Haley. Before Nikki Haley, she endorsed Mike Bloomberg, who was a Democrat in 2020. She's coming out here and saying, yeah, these political prosecutions against Trump are a scam, right? That nobody can name what the crime is, right? Which, you know, that whole network of CNN has essentially went out of their way to try to discredit this theory that the New York hush money trial was politically motivated, while at the same time acknowledging that, yeah, this would have never happened in any other part of the country except New York, which would be an indication that the trial was rigged because Democrats control the legal system in New York and they all don't like Trump. And this is why they wanted to get Trump. I mean, Alvin Bragg literally ran on getting Trump. He ran on that.
Attorney's office. I know a lot of people are wondering, whoever has this job, are they going to convict Donald Trump?
Look, that is the number one issue. We know he's investigating. And what I'll say is I was the first to announce against Cy Vance. I too have a lot of issues, which is why I decided to run. I'm the candidate in the race who has the experience with Donald Trump. I was the chief deputy in the Attorney General's office. We sued the Trump administration over 100 times for the Muslim travel ban, for family separation at the border, for shenanigans with the census. So I know how to litigate with him. I also led the team that did the Trump Foundation case. So I'm ready to go wherever the facts take me and to inherit that case. And I think, you know, it'd be hard to argue with the fact that that'd be the most important, most high profile case. And I've seen him up front and seen the lawlessness that he can do.
And you believe it should happen?
I believe we have to hold him accountable. I haven't seen all the facts beyond the public, but I've litigated with him. And so I'm prepared to go where the facts take me once I see them. And you're right, I'm being a little careful because I don't want to prejudge. And then I get into office and the first motion I get from the Trump team is I got to recuse myself because I prejudged the facts. But you're right, there's a lot out there in the public domain that is so troubling. And I say that not just as someone who's watching it, but as someone who's done these kind of cases, someone who's litigated with Donald Trump about fraud. And by the way, and won, right? We held him accountable in the Trump Foundation case. My office did the Trump University case. So I've seen a pattern of lawlessness over 20 years. And so I'm inclined to believe all I see in the public domain and know that there's and believe that there's a path forward there to make a case.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. You have a guy who clearly is biased, politically motivated. I mean, he told you straight up, like, yeah, that's the number one issue. The number one issue in New York is going after Trump, right? Who lives in Florida, by the way. He's not even in New York City like that. But again, this is what they're focused on. They're focused on going after Trump and his businesses and trying to keep him from becoming president of the United States, because this guy, Alvin Bragg, is trying to use that in order to run for higher office, his own self-aggrandizement, which is exactly what Judge Judy pointed out correctly, right? That this is happening because you have people like Fannie Willis or a Letitia James that want to elevate their political careers within the Democrat Party by going after Trump. And again, some of this is happening at the direction of the Biden administration and DOJ, because Alvin Bragg decided to bring these charges after the number 3 person at the DOJ went to that Manhattan office. Okay, he essentially took a downgrade in his career in order to try to help go after Trump. Again, we all see what's happening here. We're not stupid. Okay, we're really not. Okay. But again, the shame here, which is again what Judge Judy pointed out, is that all of this is happening. Okay, you have Alvin Bragg deciding to go after Trump for not real crimes while ignoring the real crimes, like, for example, the communist protesters who decided to destroy property on universities. He is dropping charges against them because apparently he claims we don't have evidence to support them damaging property, even though we have loads of videos showing, hey, these people were vandalizing property and being agents of chaos.
Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is now dropping those charges for nearly all of those pro-Palestinian protests who stormed that building. They were arrested after taking over an academic building at Columbia University back in April.
Yeah, you saw Hamilton Hall right here live. So far, at least 30 are off the hook, while the others have to appear in court next month.
Chanley Painter has the story on that. Hey, Chanley.
Hey, guys. So at least 30 of the 46 cases against those campus protesters have been dismissed. It was on April 30th that Columbia students and staff members were arrested and charged with misdemeanor trespassing charges after anti-Israel protesters took over Hamilton Hall on Columbia University's campus, barricading themselves inside for hours before police with riot gear cleared the building, making dozens of arrests. The occupation was a significant escalation in the weeks-long demonstrations and encampment at the university protesting the war in Gaza. But now prosecutors claim they don't have enough evidence to support the charges or to show any property was damaged or that anyone was hurt, even noting how protesters wore masks to cover their faces and covered surveillance cameras during the incident. In a statement, the DA's office says it is continuing to pursue cases from both campuses, including all assaults against police officers. There are ongoing school disciplinary proceedings for the students who have had their case dismissed. And Columbia University declined to comment on the dropped cases, guys.
Yeah, so what you have here is Alvin Bragg prioritizing fake crimes over real crimes, and this is why New York City is basically lawless. This is why it is out of control, and this is just one of many examples of Alvin Bragg dropping cases or being soft on real criminals, but trying to throw the book at people who are not criminals, like the president of the United States. Again, it's ridiculous. And it's just kind of funny to me how somebody like Judge Judy, who again is not necessarily a big fan of Trump, she goes on CNN and tells Chris Wallace to his face that, yeah, I think that this was politically motivated. Notice how Chris Wallace didn't push back against Judge Judy because he's not prepared to have that conversation with a judge, right? In regards to why these charges are bunk, okay? Why that conviction should not have happened. And it's so hilarious because Chris Wallace clearly tried to load her up with a question that would be used to try to say that, oh, well, the legal system is fair and that, everybody should just accept the outcome of the trial. And Judge Judy didn't take that bait. Okay, because again, Chris Wallace probably thought going into this, well, this woman doesn't really like Trump too much based on some things she said in the past. So she's going to come out here as a judge and basically say, oh, yeah, well, everything was legit. And she didn't take the bait. That is the hilarious part about it. Again, notice how many times Chris Wallace tried to redirect the conversation to, well, what do you think about Trump? Right? He wanted her to trash Trump so badly, right? It's pretty hilarious how the mainstream liberal media operates. But the point is that even somebody like Judge Judy can see that, hey, this wasn't necessarily fair, that this is political, that these charges should have never been brought. Even somebody like her can see that, which tells you why the conviction against Trump isn't really hurting him, right? If anything, it's helping him, because if you're not stupid, like Dr. Phil implied, then yeah, you could see what's going on here, right? That was not legit. That was an attempt to essentially go after Trump for something that, again, they would never go after anybody else for. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.